Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about Mario Kart World and how there have been even more insane discoveries about this game leading up to the Mario Kart World Direct, and one of them might even be helping to tease how much bigger this game may be. It seems a little crazy, but there are definitely some very interesting secrets that there are still to learn about this game, and that's what we'll be diving even further into today. Now, I will briefly mention that I do have this goal to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 launches on June 5th, so if you enjoy my content, your subscription would be greatly appreciated. So the first major discovery that we'll be discussing today comes from another Mario Kart World clip from Mario Kart Actu on Twitter. So as we see here, we see the cow having just shot a blue shell, and the blue shell actually creates a wave on the water. Its blast creates a wave, and we can use that wave to trick off of it. And I think this is just an amazing clip when you really break it down and think about it. So already we are noticing that the physics of the environment when you are racing on water as opposed to land feels different. There's a little bit of a wave racer, wave runner kind of like vibe. And we've even seen different bits of gameplay where there are clearly waves that are impacting how you can race around. But here we see that not only can there be waves that you'll just naturally see in the environment when you're racing around, but also the map, the track can change based off what's happening around you. So a blue shell is thrown, it causes an explosion, that explosion leads to a wave that impacts multiple players. So if you're ready, you can use that as to trick off of and get a little bit of a boost, but if you're not, perhaps that can cause a bit more of a delay. And so we're seeing another example of how dynamic these tracks can be, how much can change and how much can happen. We already know that there are different varying weather effects. We know that the time of day can change as well. But we've also seen how the environment can be somewhat destructible. So when you account for a more destructible environment, different weather effects, time of day, but even things like this where someone might do something to the environment that will lead to even more changes, the level of variance you may see on the same route can be drastic. And I think that's going to greatly strengthen the replayability of this game. Listen, we've been playing Mario Kart 8 for so many years. If you were on Wii U, you've been playing it since 2014. And the gameplay of Mario Kart is essentially timeless. You can continue to play and enjoy these tracks. But Mario Kart tracks tend to age pretty well. However, what we are seeing with Mario Kart World, these tracks are probably fun to begin with. But when you account for everything that can cause different changes and different perspectives on what you're racing in, that level of replayability, that ability to not grow stale over time, is further strengthened. Keeping with the theme of water-related clips, there's something else we've seen very interesting from content creator @GetMads here on Twitter. They also have a YouTube that will be linked in the description below. But as you see here, we see that they're racing with Bowser on the ocean, and they drive into this sort of steam-powered boat vehicle, and we see it going in and out of the water, bouncing around, and they're not even on a track. They're kind of a fair bit outside of the track, and here they are entering Crown City, and a lot of people are freaking out about this, because this is kind of a big deal. We've seen that there is the truck in Mario Kart World, where you can jump into it and you can ride around in a track, causing mayhem, causing destruction to the environment, but we're seeing also in free roam that these types of vehicles are readily available, and it's not just within tracks but way outside as well. It's another example of how they are giving us different things to do in the free roam mode, where there's actually a surprising amount of things to do. Now, something else I'd like to point out about this clip is that we see this city over here, or structure off into the distance. Pretty sure this is the space shuttle area for DK, the spaceport, because this is Crown City. They are connected to each other. And Crown City isn't the last thing you see before entering the ocean. Taking a look at the map here, they would have been around here, around Crown City, Spaceport's over here, so it makes sense that they would see this body of water, and the closest other track would be over here. And what's interesting about that is that taking another look at this footage, if you pay attention closely, you'll see that everything off into the distance is a bit obscured. We can't see like anything else around us but the spaceport, but as we get closer over here, you'll see that it starts to appear the rest of the land. Take note, the mist starts to disappear. You see that right there as it disappears. So that's where we're at. Just very interesting to see how all the world loads in. Another observation that has been made that people have noticed during the Treehouse event and such for this game is that when you are putting together the settings for a versus race in Mario Kart World, there are options for a race count, for intermission, and it is believed that intermission has to do with the intermissions between different races when you're doing a Grand Prix. And that may be why it's grayed out here for the Knockout Tour option, but basically this gives us some extra confidence that there will be other ways to play the tracks in this game, and if you want the more traditional Grand Prix experience, you can still set that up. But now moving on to what may be the craziest discovery yet about Mario Kart World. Now, I do have to stress that this one probably is not going to be what we want it to be, at least not at first, but it's certainly a very interesting conversation to have. So we see this user on Twitter, I'll translate their post here by Google, Mario Kart World Continent, maybe the one under the title logo, so there are still 2 continents, ? And so as you see here, they circle this piece of land at the bottom of the Mario Kart World logo. It's a continent, as there are others on the world. But what they're paying attention to here, if you flip the map of Mario Kart World, the shape of this continent here on the logo seems to match this part of the map very well. And so taking a closer, more detailed look here, notice the shape, right? There's text kind of obscuring what's going on. This looks almost like an island, but it might not actually be an island. And so it kind of goes around like this. It's concaved, and there is a shape. There's a little bit of a curve there, right? And so as we look here, there is a similarity to the shape on the left side. And then as we look here, yep, this is all concaved as well. And then here on the right side, there is like a little bit of a curve right there. So the shape is very similar. But what made me think this is even more interesting is not just the similar shape, but also the color. So hear me out here. It may not seem like the colors match that well at first, but let's point out here that yes, this part of the map looks a lot darker, but that's because the clouds are actually covering this part of the map. This is not like a 2D scene here. This is actually a depiction of the map in 3 dimension, but from very high up, a very high up bird's eye view. And so this is not as dark normally. Normally this is actually rather green. Looking at the flipped version of the map here, we can see a more clear depiction of the colors. And when looking at it like this, I do feel like the colors do line up relatively well. Not perfectly, but there is a similarity there, I would say, especially with the right side. But we also have a green. It's not like a dark color like this. This is just because of the lighting, because of the clouds causing a big shadow. And so maybe there is something to this idea that what we're seeing in Mario Kart World, this entire land we can explore, is only just the bottom continent. Considering we're about to get the Mario Kart World Direct, could there be more that is shown? And I don't think it's realistic to think that they could have 2 other continents that are the same size, that are completely different maps right from day one. That seems really hard to believe. Now, we do know that Mario Kart World is $80. Nintendo is charging more than usual. And there is kind of like this expectation that perhaps that's because the game is bigger than usual. Tears of the Kingdom was a massive game, significantly larger than even Breath of the Wild, and well, they charged us for it. It was a $70 game. Mario Kart World being an $80 game, is that going to tie into the world being that much larger? I think you could already argue that with the map we've seen so far from Mario Kart World, it's pretty vast. There's a lot to do. It's very interesting. And if they just fill it up with a variety of different things to do, different exciting, interesting modes, characters, and a lot of surprises just within this map, they can find a way to show that there's a lot of value. They don't have to triple the amount of real estate or space we can explore from what's been shown so far. That would be amazing, but I'm not expecting that, even though this is a very interesting similarity we are seeing here with the logo and with what we've seen so far of the map. So no, I'm not expecting for them to confirm during the Mario Kart World Direct that there are actually 3 different continents and we've only seen one of the 3. That would be incredible, but it's extremely unexpected by me at least. However, I do think this could be a hint towards what's to come down the line maybe. I could see a scenario where maybe year 1, they add an expansion, perhaps for free, and that expansion is another continent to race on. And maybe year 2, there could be another expansion. Of course, by that point, I would assume that they would definitely be charging us for this, if not for both. I only suggest that the first expansion would be free, the first year of DLC, because of the high starting price tag of $80 USD. But this idea seems to make a lot of sense to me because I would expect that if there is DLC for this game, they would be adding new tracks, but we already have a world that's all interconnected. They can't just give us a menu where we're like, hey, here's some more and that's it. Well, maybe they could, but I think what would make the most sense for DLC is that when they do introduce new tracks, they would be included in their own separate areas, separate continents that would all be interconnected as well, which would mean they wouldn't be able to give us these expansions in parts. They would have to give it to us all in one shot, or else the map would be incomplete, right? They could probably do some little things throughout the expansion pass, and then it all culminates into one bigger area to explore and race through. And maybe they could even tease the first expansion that would be for free, and maybe they could even tease this first expansion in the Mario Kart World Direct if it's free. I think if they announce paid DLC in the Direct right now with all this pricing controversy with them having increased the price, that would really not be a good look, so I really doubt they'll be announcing paid DLC during the Mario Kart World Direct. But if they want to announce that they have DLC plans to follow as free updates, that might be a little bit different. And so if they tease that there will be another continent added later on to the year, I think that would probably be the most reasonable way to go about it. But I had a thought on what these 2 other continents could be. So this first continent we have is very Mushroom Kingdom centric, right? At the very center we have Peach's castle, but then we also have a castle for Daisy, we have a castle or a crown city for Pauline, and we also have a castle for Rosalina. And so there are these different kingdoms depicted within this continent. We have Bowser's area, we have the Boo area, we have the Donkey Kong areas. And so yes, clearly this is Mario Kart, this is a Mario Kart world, pun intended. But by going in this direction, it then has me wondering. They included a decent amount of Nintendo tracks outside of the Mario universe in Mario Kart 8 through its first DLC waves, and they even included some updates on different characters later on as well. And a lot of people have been speculating that maybe the next Mario Kart would be like a Nintendo Kart, and at this point clearly that is not the case. But what if with DLC it could be? What if with a continent they add, it's straight up a Nintendo Land? They could even call it literally that, Nintendo Land, reminding us of Nintendo Land, the game that came out for the Nintendo Wii U, or they could call it Nintendo World, reminding us of Super Nintendo World, the park. And so this Nintendo Land could be a combination of maybe still some other Mario Universe tracks, but then also including a lot of other Nintendo-related franchises like Zelda, F-Zero, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and more. Branch out even further, Star Fox, Kid Icarus. They could make for an amazing continent that would be a Nintendo Land or a Nintendo World as some sort of expansion later down the road for this game. Now, the more I think about it, I feel like something like this would make a lot of sense for it to be paid. So I'm going to say this, that if there is something like this ever happening, it will not be announced in this Mario Kart World Direct. This would maybe be the second expansion that comes later down the road, later into the generation for Switch 2. But instead what they do is they have another continent, because we do see 2 others, and this other continent could maybe be like a depiction of all the tour tracks we saw from Mario Kart Tour, where it's all these different depictions of cities we see throughout our real world, and it would be interesting to see that all connected into one place, one land. Or maybe they just include a land that's just a mix of a whole bunch of things. Some Nintendo related franchises, some recreations of some Mario Kart Tour tracks, and just some totally brand new tracks, and that's what it is, and then they do that again a year or two later. That way they can have 3 continents in the game. Maybe that would be the most sensible direction. I really doubt there are 3 continents playable in Mario Kart World day 1. Regardless, I'm expecting some very exciting things to be shown to us during the Mario Kart World Direct, which, yes, I will be live streaming, so I'm very much looking forward to this event. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.